We've always been aware of the need for good ventilation in our homes, even if we didn't know all of the reasons why it was important. Without a good supply of fresh air, dwellings became uncomfortable, to say the least. Ancient buildings like the Pantheon in Rome and later some medieval buildings were built with holes in the ceiling to get fresh air in and hot and smoky air out. But even today, many of us, homeowners and builders alike, aren't fully aware of the key role played by ventilation. Experts estimate that 90% of the homes in this country are inadequately ventilated. We need adequate ventilation for our own comfort and health, as well as to maintain the structural integrity of our house and to conserve energy and save money. In the 1950s, the widespread introduction of air conditioning in America helped us to cope with the unbearable heat and humidity that could build up under roof pitches, especially in the South. But beating the heat meant high electricity bills and didn't cool off the attic temperature much. In the North, homes were made increasingly airtight to hold in the expensive heat. But this also added to problems in the attic by building up and trapping moisture. Your attic needs effective ventilation to keep it cooler in summer and drier in winter. The sun's heat on a 90-degree day can heat your roof to 170 degrees. Inside the attic, the temperature can easily reach 150 degrees.
It gets so hot in an attic, the shingles from the underside is like a piece of bologna. It fries up like a piece of bologna.
This built-up attic heat then radiates down into the rooms below. Your house becomes uncomfortably hot, and your air conditioner works harder, and you spend more on electricity just to beat the heat. An overheated attic can prematurely distort and deteriorate shingles, as well as insulation and siding. Winter conditions bring a different type of problem. During the cold months of the year, the air inside your home is warmer and carries more water vapor than the colder, drier air in the attic. Where does this water vapor come from? From all of us. When you cook, use the dishwasher or refrigerator, the clothes washer or dryer. Use the shower, the tub, or the sink. Everyone living in your house perspires up to 1 gallon of water into the air daily. In your attic, this water vapor condenses on the cold roof sheathing, where it drips down to soak your insulation, reducing its effectiveness. As a result, heat loss through the ceiling increases, and your heating bills go up. You may have heard the saying, don't insulate if you don't ventilate. Trapping the moisture in your attic could mean major problems later. The moisture buildup causes mildew, wood rot, and structural damage to the ceiling and roofing material. How serious can the problems become? Listen to these homeowners.
As regular average home buyers, when we first went out to buy the home, originally the roof was only 5 years old. And after being in the home 5 or 6 years, and we had the leak, and the roofer said we needed a whole new roof because of no ventilation, we couldn't believe it. Us as average home buyers, we didn't know how important the ventilation actually was until he told us we had to rip up the entire roof down to the rafters.
In a well-ventilated house, the inside air is drier and healthier. Certain viruses and microbes thrive in the humidity trapped in poorly ventilated houses. Studies also show a connection between allergies, mold and mildew, and prolonged indoor moisture condensation. The question, since the beginning of time, remains, how do we get adequate ventilation? A multitude of devices were developed in this century to ventilate the attic. Roof vents, wind turbines, and power fans, among others. But these approaches had their drawbacks. Some were just plain ugly, but all were marginally effective. Soffit vents alone fail to provide air movement across the underside of the roof sheathing. Venting is confined to the attic floor. Passive roof vents, if used alone, offer a very small area of circulation, limited to about a 5-foot area around the opening. Adding soffit or fascia vents leaves large pockets of heat and moisture unvented. The same is true of turbine vents. They only vent the space directly below the opening. To make matters worse, tests have shown that air, rain, and snow may enter through turbines even while they are turning. Gable and end wall louvers give as little ventilation as the roof vent, and the area vented depends on wind direction. Power vents in the roof or the gable end likewise draw ineffectively. Many utility companies have said that power vents are costly and ineffective. The power to operate them in summer exceeds the savings in air conditioning. For your attic ventilation to be effective in combating heat buildup and moisture condensation, the entire underside of the roof sheathing must be ventilated continuously and uniformly. In the 1970s, passive ridge venting was introduced with metal ridge vents and later plastic vents that vented most of the ridge line. And this is where the history of attic ventilation moves into the 21st century, with Cobra Ridge Vent. Because of all the ventilation possibilities available, Cobra from GAF Building Materials Corporation provides the best solution in economy, appearance, performance, and ease of installation. Cobra Ridge Vent works in conjunction with soffit vents or fascia vents and the air that travels across your roof. This air causes negative pressure, essentially a vacuum, that draws stale, moist air out of the attic through Cobra Ridge Vent. At the same time, fresh air is drawn into the attic through the soffits or fascia vents, refreshing the attic air and equalizing temperature and pressure inside the attic and out. This means that heat is drawn off in the summer, and your roof stays cold during winter so that condensation doesn't form. Instead, the moisture-laden air is vented. To prove just how effective Cobra Ridge Vent is, we tested various venting systems on the same house. First, we installed passive off-ridge vents, then turbines, then another passive ridge vent system, and finally, Cobra Ridge Vent. In each case, we filled the attic with smoke to simulate the hot or moisture-laden air that causes all the problems in a poorly ventilated attic. As you can see, the passive roof vents allowed some smoke to ventilate. However, inside the attic, it is obvious that the roof vents are only venting a very small area immediately around the vent. We then replaced the roof vents with turbines. Besides detracting from the house's overall appearance, the turbines, even when spinning, offer a very small improvement. Next, we used a conventional plastic ridge vent. Although this system works much the same as Cobra, inside the attic we see that it only vented the 4-foot area over which it was installed. Finally, we installed Cobra along the ridge. As you can see, inside the smoke-filled attic, only Cobra was effective in ventilating the entire roof sheath. Recent tests conducted at a respected independent test lab show that Cobra Ridge Vent performed as well as externally baffled ridge vents in reducing ceiling and shingle temperature buildup.
And today we installed the Cobra Ridge Vent, as you see. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it for myself, that it would work better than any and all the other products I used.
Cobra Ridge Vent is the only ridge vent recommended by GAF to meet the shingle warranty for proper attic ventilation. Cobra is easy to install, and it works on any pitch over 3 and 12. In fact, Cobra's flexibility is unique in the industry. Unlike plastic or metal ridge vents, Cobra can easily conform to even a 12 and 12 pitch. It can be used with metal, tile, and cedar roofs, and it can be used on hip roofs. For the roofing contractor, Cobra offers easy installation. You simply cut a 2-inch slot along the ridge, stopping 6 inches from each end. You uncoil Cobra along the entire length of the ridge. Shorter lengths can be butted together, so there is no waste. Finally, the ridge caps are installed directly over the Cobra. Even the roofing nails are supplied. Don't drive the nails home. Leave about a 3/4-inch gap. Another feature that roofing pros like is the way Cobra handles. It's almost indestructible, so there's no waste getting it to the job.
Cobra is virtually a non-waste product. You can run over it, you can throw it in the truck. It's easy to store. The other products that are out there, we have a lot of damage, used to have a lot of service calls for dented or unsightly appearance.
And unlike other vent systems on a roll, there's no fabric overwrap to worry about, or baffles that may clog with debris or snow. For the homeowner, Cobra offers the lowest profile in the industry. It actually enhances the appearance of your roofline. Would you rather have this or this? Metal turbines or vents make your home look like a diner, and they just don't do the job that Cobra does. Not only does Cobra help you make your home more energy efficient, it's ecologically sensible too. Cobra is made from 90% recycled material. Other ridge vent systems leave gaps that invite insect infestation or wind-driven snow and rain. Not Cobra. In fact, when subjected to 100-mile-per-hour wind-driven rain, test results proved that no damage nor failures were evident, and that no water leakage occurred. The ages-long quest for the perfect attic ventilation system is over. Cobra Ridge Vent is the state-of-the-art answer. But stay tuned to see how Cobra is solving attic ventilation problems in your part of the country. Near Lake Tahoe, Jeff Robbins was building his dream house, a Lindell cedar home. But he had a problem. The ridge vent that came with the package couldn't conform to the steep pitch of the roof that formed the soaring cathedral ceiling. Then he discovered Cobra Ridge Vent.
On the prow area with the 12 and 12 pitch, we use the Cobra vent, and that worked much better than the shingle vent too, as far as conforming to the roof line on that pitch. It preserved that wonderful peak, and you can see how well it turned out for us. It just worked much better.
Cobra's ability to withstand the wind-driven snow his home would be subjected to around Lake Tahoe was a consideration for Jeff. He also learned firsthand about its ventilation capacity.
When I was up on the roof, when the material was being installed, it was a rather warm, sunny day, and as the sun was going down, I went up there, and you could actually feel if you put your hands on either side of the ridge vent, you could feel the hot air coming up and being drawn up and out, and that was very pleasing to me to make sure that we had that ventilation up in that roof cavity.
Cobra's ability to ventilate heat of an attic space was put to the most severe test imaginable on a home in the Mojave Desert, where the average temperature is approximately 115 degrees.
Well, it was hot here that day. It was probably excess of 110 degrees the day we put it on. And it was hot in the attic, extremely hot. And we went up in there to see the structure of the attic to know how to cut it out. And when we started cutting it out, you could actually see the rays coming up. You could see the heat coming up from the hole. You could feel the heat.
In fact, the temperature dropped in the attic from 160 degrees before Cobra to 127 degrees after Cobra was installed. And Al discovered that Cobra solved other problems as well.
The high dust factor here, you can see off in the hills the big piles of sand from work that's been done in the area. Gets in those dormer vents. We don't have that anymore. The summer comes, the heat gets in the attic, generates that flow, it cleans that ridge out, and we're really pleased with it.
Near Santa Cruz, in Scotts Valley, another homeowner found success using Cobra to help overcome a problem caused not by the climate, but rather the geology.
This site is very close to the epicenter of the Loma Prieta 1989 earthquake. And in fact, the upper scarp of a very large landslide occurred right on this site. And that's the reason why the house had to be rebuilt.
Working together, the engineer, the roofer, and the homeowner devised a novel method of using Cobra's venting capacity, using round holes that could pass the stringent earthquake requirements, rather than a continuous ridge vent.
Because of the structural requirements, the vents had to be 8 inches below the ridge. So there was a plywood filler put in at the top, and then a Cobra vent put in at the bottom, so we just extended the ridge material to cover the extra distance. And it worked real well and produced a real serviceable product.
It represents a good, clean way of solving a problem, a structural problem that I encounter from time to time, and that is that in other parts of the country, separating the two halves of the ridge structurally is okay, but here it's not. And so I'm glad I had a chance to see this.
For me, the most exciting part of Cobra Vent was opening the package. Because when I opened the package and I saw that it was so flexible and it was not going to cut anybody, and now I've heard it's made of recycled materials, which just, I think that's the greatest. What I saw was sort of a package of possibility. And so one thing I have been thinking about is applying Cobra to the eave vents so that I can keep any little bugs that might decide to travel in that way out of my house.
Up and down the West Coast, roofers and homeowners alike continue to be amazed at the flexibility and effectiveness of Cobra Ridge Vent. On this house in Fresno, Cobra is the preferred choice to provide total ventilation across the ridge, as well as in the numerous hips that can't be adequately vented by other methods.
Another problem that we have specific here is condensation, which tends to promote dry rot, and a good ventilated attic will prevent such an occurrence.
Using an alternative venting system, turbines or vents, simply can't clear the air the way Cobra can.
Here in Central California, if you're driving down the street, you'll notice that in the fronts of the houses, there's very few vents coming through because they are an eyesore and people don't want to see them. But you've got a nice roof line front and back with this ridge ventilating system.
Homeowners, builders, and roofers across the West are in agreement. For ease of installation, flexibility, ventilation capacity, and curb appeal, nothing beats Cobra Ridge Vent.